I went to the bank to withdraw $50,000 for my father's surgery, but the teller kept using identity verification as an excuse to send me back and forth, making me run around like a fool. I swallowed my anger, went back, and gathered every single document he demanded. The moment I finished, I turned right around and called the police. I reported him for impersonating a bank employee. The second the call went through, the teller, Wang Xiang, went dead pale. He lunged out from behind the counter and clawed at my hands to snatch my phone. He screamed at the top of his lungs, "Why the hell are you calling the cops?" I took a sharp step back, dodging him. I stared him down and asked, "What do you think you're doing?" Runcha scowled, snapping back that he was already processing my transaction and accusing me of calling the cops just to make trouble. I let out a cold laugh. "If you can suspect me, why can't I question you?" I began counting on my fingers. First, you used identity verification as an excuse over and over to deny my withdrawal. Second, your requirements kept changing every single time. So, I highly suspect you're not even a real bank employee. Your professionalism is absolutely pathetic. I glared at him. "Give me back my phone right now, or I'll add robbery to the charges." Wang scoffed, a nasty smirk on his face. "Embarrassing loser," he mocked. "Running back and forth so many times for a measly $50,000. Aren't you?" He immediately turned and shouted for security, claiming I was causing a scene. He ordered them, "Get this trash out of my bank." The bystanders started jeering and whispering. "Look at him," someone muttered, withdrawing a tiny bit of cash and acting like he owns the place. Seeing the crowd side with him, Wang Qiang gave me a smug, arrogant look. "Be smart and get the hell out of here," he sneered. I let out a bitter, angry laugh. I couldn't forget how he had looked down on me with such snobbery from the very beginning. The moment I sat down and said I needed to withdraw $50,000 for my father's surgery, disdain was written all over his face. I didn't want to waste my breath arguing with someone like him. I just wanted to get the money and rush to the hospital, but he kept craned excuses to make things difficult for me. Over and over again. The rules changed every 5 minutes. And now, he was trying to stop me from standing up for myself. He was actually turning this around, accusing me of causing trouble. A security guard marched over and violently grabbed my arm. He began dragging me toward the exit with brute force. He kept saying, "Please leave, sir." But his grip was so tight it felt like my bones were going to shatter. A searing, burning pain shot all the way up my arm. I yanked my hand back forcefully, breaking free from his grip. I screamed at him to let me go, warning him that there are security cameras all over the bank. If you treat customers like this, who would ever dare to come back? Hearing the word cameras, the security guard instantly let go of my arm. Wang Qiang pointed at me in a rage, accusing me of looking for trouble on purpose. I stared at him coldly and uttered just one sentence. "Give me back my phone." Wang Qiang glared at me with sheer hatred. She threw my phone at me, snarling for me to get the hell out. A cold smirk played on my lips. This isn't ending that easily. With the lobby crowded, I leisurely sat back down in my seat and called the police once more. Speaking into the receiver, I said, "I suspect someone is posing as a bank staff member and searching my 499 without authorization."
我用拳子浪这么一干，
But the other tellers held him back. His colleagues whispered to him that the bank was currently being evaluated, and he absolutely couldn't clash with customers at a critical time like this. They urged him to apologize immediately.
Wang Qiang's face darkened.
He spat that he did nothing wrong.
So why the hell should I apologize? I let out a cold snort. Apologizing now is way too late. I have absolutely no intention of accepting it anyway. The police showed up pretty fast. I explained the whole situation from start to finish. I told them that Wang Qiang kept fumbling the procedures and clearly knew nothing about bank regulations. I suspect he's an imposter, trying to dig into my personal information. The officers nodded, then turned to ask Wang Qiang what he had to say for himself.
Wang Qiang gave me another vicious glare,
telling the police that I was out of my mind and just looking for trouble. He barked, "How could I not be a bank employee?" The officer frowned, and sternly told him his attitude was way too aggressive. The customer's suspicion is perfectly reasonable. I smirked mockingly. I turned to the police and demand to see Wang Xiang's employment contract with the bank, right here, right now, to prove who he actually is. Otherwise, he has absolutely no right to check my 499.
Wang Qiang grits his teeth, snarling. "You just wait."
He whips around and immediately makes a call. I just shrug my shoulders. "Oh, I'll wait. Go ahead." I'm not scared of him in the slightest. A moment later, a woman in a bank uniform rushes over. She claims she's the manager, and that she'll handle any issues. I scoff. "You say you're the manager. Talk is cheap. Where's your proof?" She points to the badge pinned to her chest and says her name is Li Mei. "It's written right here. Clear as day," she says. I take a close look, but I don't back down. Seeing the manager step in, Wang Qiang thinks he's got backup now. He crosses his arms, looking down his nose at me. He sneers. "The manager is here now. What else do you have to say for yourself?" I glance lazily at Li Mei. "What does the plastic badge prove? I could claim to be the Jade Emperor. Would you believe me then?" Wang Qiang freezes. Then, he flares up and snaps at me. "How dare you speak to the manager like that?" My expression turns cold. I tell the officer, I suspect these two are in on this together. If Manager Li can't show me real proof, I'm not leaving. Li Mei realizes I'm not someone she can just push around. She quickly orders someone to fetch Wang Qiang's original contract and 499.
While Chongtai mumbles a highly reluctant, "Sorry,"
to turn away. I don't accept half-hearted apologies. Wang Queen's face turns incredibly dark. He presses his lips together, not saying another word. Half an hour later.
让相识物尽种康喘，那火患真乃敌年，而蛙树。你妹孩子们他，我的肤是时髦，牙系你的废案法等。
I cast a lazy glance over them and give a flat, oh. Wen Qi meshes his teeth. I knew it. You're just playing with me on purpose. We went through all this trouble to bring the originals, and you barely even looked at them. I cut him off. Do you have a problem with me? Long Yong takes a deep breath, forcing himself to swallow his anger. With a fake, strained smile, he says, No, of course not. I nod, approvingly. I tilted my chin up, gesturing that we weren't done yet. Yunchet leaped up like his tail had been stepped on, snapping, What more do you want? I calmly replied, That employment contract only proves your relationship with the bank. Now that we've verified your $499 and confirmed that your face matches the card, Rangchuan snatched his $499 back. He glared at me and hissed, Are you satisfied now that you've wasted so much of my time? Fading surprise, I asked, When did I ever waste your time? I'm simply treating you the exact same way you treated me. He waved his hand dismissively, sounding incredibly annoyed. Fine, my bad, okay? Can I leave now? He demanded. I still have work to do. I coldly uttered, Not so fast.
Gritting his teeth, Wang Cheng growled. What else do you want?
I turned to the police officer. Officer, even if he proved he works for the bank, that doesn't give him the right to snatch my phone. How is he any different from a common thug? The officer's face darkened. Robbery is a very serious charge, the officer warned. Wen Qiang's face turned instantly pale. He waved his hands frantically, stammering, No, I didn't rob anyone. It was just a moment of impulse. I lost my head. For the first time, he swallowed his pride and bowed his head. He offered me a sincere, formal apology. I was foolish, he pleaded. Please, don't hold it against me. He even bowed deeply to me. Mie chimed in to back him up. Wekshong is a veteran employee, she pleaded. He knows the rules, but made things difficult on purpose. I'll make sure he corrects his behavior. Please, just let it slide this time. The officer turned to me. Well, his identity has been verified, and he has apologized. Maybe it's best to forgive and forget. I figured the officer had a point. Besides, I didn't want to waste any more time here. I gave a magnanimous nod. Fine, let's leave it at that for today. The officer handed me the statement. I scanned through it, saw no issues, and signed it. The officers took the statement and left. The moment I turned back after seeing the officers out,
Wang Chang's face instantly twisted in anger.
I already apologized, he barked coldly. Why are you still here? What do you think you're doing? Li Mei hissed, snapping at Wan Chai. She demanded to know if he had completely ignored what she had just told him.
Wan Qing shook off her hand and scoffed. What's there to be afraid of?
The inspectors haven't even shown up yet. They're probably not coming today anyway. I chuckled and asked, And what if I refuse to leave? Li Mei frowned, looking utterly annoyed. Your business here is done, she said impatiently. It's time for you to go. I stared back at her, completely calm. I sat there in silence, not moving an inch. This pushed Wan Cheng over the edge. I already apologized and gave you the damn contract, he roared. I've completely humiliated myself. What more do you want? He stomped toward me aggressively, glaring at Li Mei to get out of his way. I'm going to teach you a lesson today, no matter what. He sneered. Go ahead and call the cops again if you think you're so tough. He raised his hand, about to slap me across the face. I scoffed. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my $499 badge, and hung it around my neck. Word by word, I declared, Chen Xie, quality inspector from group headquarters. I am here specifically to audit and evaluate this branch on Gongnong Road.
Luxung and Li Mei froze instantly, their jaws dropping.
They stood there paralyzed, unable to believe their eyes. My hero stared at me in sheer disbelief. He began to stutter, his voice shaking. You're really the inspector from headquarters? Li Mei was the first to snap out of it. She quickly wiped the shock off her face, forcing a fake smile and extending her hand. What an honor! It was all just a misunderstanding. No need to shake hands, I replied coldly. I need all of this branch's business data for this year, all reported violations, and past audit records compiled. Get the reports ready and bring them to my office. Just as I turned to leave, Wang Qing suddenly stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Wait a minute, he barked. I looked up in surprise, wondering what he was trying to pull.
Something's not right here, he muttered.
If she really were the head of the inspection team, why didn't she say so from the very beginning? Why go through the trouble of withdrawing money, calling the cops, and making a scene? What is she after? His eyes darted around suspiciously, and he suddenly locked eyes with Li Mei. He claimed I must have overheard them talking about an upcoming inspection from the higher-ups, and that I was intentionally impersonating an executive. I pinched the bridge of my nose in sheer disbelief. They say it's not the wicked people you need to worry about. It's the complete idiots trying to play clever. I mean, if I were just pulling a scam on the fly, where on earth did I get these official credentials? What, do they think I'm some kind of magician who can just conjure them up out of thin air? Wan Cheng's face instantly flushed a bright red. He couldn't say a single word at first, but then he stammered. You can't prove your identity with just some $499. Didn't you just say that Li Mei couldn't prove she's the manager just by showing her badge? Li looked over at Li Mei, completely exasperated. She hadn't said a single word this entire time. clearly using Wan Chang as a pawn to test the waters. I knew exactly what she was trying to do. She was playing it safe, the sly fox. I have turned out to be the real deal. Then Wang Chang would be the only one who offended me. But if I was a fraud?
Wang Kyun's aggressive calling out was exactly what she wanted.
This Li Mei sure is a scheming piece of work. Fine. How exactly do you want me to prove it? Show us your original employment contract with headquarters. I scoffed. He was trying to use my own logic to humiliate me. Too bad he's completely out of his league. He doesn't even have the security clearance to lay eyes on my contract. Just get someone we actually know to vouch for you. Don't just call some random person we don't know. Otherwise, it doesn't count. I shot them a meaningful look. Glanced at Li Mei and said, "Oh, she definitely knows this person. In fact, your store manager knows him very well." I dialed the number right in front of them. I spoke directly into the receiver. "I'm currently inspecting the Gaonang Road branch. The staff here is demanding I prove my identity. Call their store manager's cell phone directly." The person on the other end of the line froze and then instantly blew a fuse. "Who the hell dares to question you?" they roared. "I'm heading over right now." I calmly took a seat in the office. Li Mei hesitated, stepping forward to pour me a glass of water. But Wang Shang grabbed her arm and dragged her out. "Can't you see he's a total fraud? Don't let him play you. You're a manager. There's no need to pour water for some shady nobody." I let out a cold laugh. Ignoring him, she said, "Please, take a seat. I still have work to take care of." But I knew exactly what was going on. She was heading to headquarters to verify my identity. Only Wan Cheng and I were left in the office. He glared at me like a hawk. "Don't you have work to do?" I asked. "A teller leaving their post unattended and nobody cares?" "Cut the act," he sneered. "I'm a senior employee here. I can do whatever the hell I want. You have no right to tell me what to do, and I need to keep an eye on you to make sure you don't steal any company files. I'm the head of the headquarters inspection team. I have no reason to steal anything. You made such a big scene over 50,000, and you reek of poverty. There is no way in hell you're the inspection team leader. Li Mei went to verify your story. If you're impersonating a headquarters official, get ready to rot in prison. Have you ever stopped to think, what will happen to you if I'm telling the truth?" Runqing froze for a moment, but he quickly shook his head, convincing himself that I had to be a fake. I completely lost my patience to argue with him. Talking to an idiot like this was a total waste of time. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was a call from the hospital. "Yeah, the doctor said my father needed surgery, and I had to pay and sign the consent form as soon as possible. They asked me to come over right away. I'm calling off the inspection for today. I'll report this to headquarters." "You think you can just walk away?" "No way. I have a family emergency. I have to leave. Right now." "You're not rushing home because of an emergency. You're running because you're guilty." He thought I was terrified of being exposed as an imposter by Li Mei. "I don't have time for your games. Get out of my way." But Wan Cheng lunged forward and grabbed my arm in a death grip. He threatened to call the police on me, calling me a fraud, and refused to let me leave. I struggled desperately to break free. As Wan Cheng grew increasingly hysterical, he raised his hand and slapped me right across the face. Yazing actually called the police to humiliate me over $50,000. "I am not letting you off the hook today." He slammed the office door open and yelled at Li Mei outside, claiming I was a fraud. There is no need to double check. I'm just guilty and trying to run. The next second, the store manager's phone rang frantically. It was a direct call from the brand's head of Greater China. A voice roared from the receiver. "Let go of Team Leader Chen this instant." Li Mei's boss, the store manager, rushed over in a panic. The moment he saw Wan Cheng grabbing my arm, he broke out in a cold walk. He bellowed at Wang Xia, ordering him to let go of me immediately. Li Mei rushed over too. She looked at the store manager with utter confusion and asked him what he was doing here. I knew exactly what was going on. Li Mei was just a manager who didn't have the clearance to attend headquarters meetings. So, of course, she didn't recognize me. Only the store manager was the one coordinating with me. Team Leader Chen came for an inspection. "And this is how you welcome him?" The moment he arrived, Rong Hyung was putting his hands all over him. "Is this how you train your staff?" I had to step away, so I asked Wang Jiang to assist him. I have no idea what just happened. From the moment the store manager showed up, Wan Chang's face went completely pale. He stood there with his head hung low, hands limp at his sides, not daring to utter a single word. Your store staff is certainly dedicated, accusing me of being an imposter without a shred of evidence, refusing to let me leave, and even slapping me across the face." The store manager's eyes instantly widened. He looked absolutely horrified. "Did this actually happen?" "Strict Wan Zheng of all his commissions and bonuses immediately. Demote him to an intern clerk and issue a store-wide disciplinary notice." Team Leader Chen, I am so sorry you had to go through this. I will make sure the entire staff undergoes strict disciplinary retraining and give you a satisfying explanation. I glanced at the time. My mind was still on my father when the hospital called again. My heart was in my throat as I picked up the call right in front of the store manager. The hospital told me my family had already arrived and they were getting the paperwork sorted for his surgery. They told me not to worry since they were there and that I should just focus on my work. I let out a long, heavy sigh of relief. The weight on my chest finally lifted. My family has always been reliable. With them there, my father would definitely be fine. I stopped in my tracks, turned back to Wan Xiang and Li Mei, and said,
My family emergency is taken care of.
Now, let's settle the score for you putting your hands on me. I didn't mean to. I really didn't. I just didn't know who you were. You were in such a rush to leave. I thought you were an imposter. I only put my hands on you because I panicked. Please, I beg you, don't let the manager punish me. It wasn't easy for me to get this job. I can't afford to be punished.
Wang Zhou is a veteran employee.
He has a lot of experience. He just had a momentary lapse of judgment. Please, just give me another chance. Oh, so now you know how to be scared? Where was this attitude earlier? I didn't say a word. I just looked up at the store manager, tossing the ball back into his court. The defense are bullies for a scene with I knew exactly what was going on. He's the one in charge of this store, and he had already issued the punishment.
Yet Lei Mei, using her position as manager,
Completely ignored his authority and had the nerve to plead with me instead. It was obvious the store staff was completely fractured, and the management was a total mess. I wanted to see exactly how the store manager would handle this. The store manager's face looked absolutely terrible. He barks angrily at Li Mei, demanding to know if she's deaf for just ignoring him. Dock all of his commissions and bonuses immediately.
demote him to a trainee.
And issue a store-wide notice. Wang Cheng's face turns pale as death in an instant. He can barely stand on his own 2 feet. Sui-il on the spot as if he's about to collapse. He desperately claims he did all of this for her and begs her to speak up for him right now. But the moment Li Mei hears the manager's harsh words, she instantly shuts her mouth, not daring to plead for him anymore. The manager composes himself and looks coldly at Wang Cheng. As a bank employee, Wang Cheng committed a severe professional blunder. All of his commissions and bonuses are forfeited. He is hereby demoted to a trainee. This incident will be documented in a disciplinary report and submitted directly to headquarters. Prangxing stares at Li Mei in absolute disbelief. He screams at her, accusing her of stabbing him in the back the second things went south. I did all of this for you! You were the one who told me to find proof that she was a fraud. I watched the two of them with a cold, mocking smile, enjoying the pathetic show as they shift the blame and tear each other to pieces.
Wang Cheng, you are talking utter nonsense, she shrieks.
She claims she only asked him to look into my identity, not to go around getting physical and hitting people.
Wang Cheng has made a massive, unforgivable mistake.
There is absolutely no way to cover it up. The manager snaps, ordering Wang Cheng to get out of his sight immediately. Then he calls over another employee and orders them to post Wang Cheng's case in the company group chat as a warning. Let this be a harsh lesson to everyone. Only then does the manager's expression soften slightly. He turns to me, asking with utmost respect, "Shall we begin the inspection now, ma'am? The entire store will fully cooperate with you." I nod calmly. I follow him into the office, where he quickly hands me the files. I start flipping through the documents, page by page. Suddenly, a massive uproar breaks out in the lobby. It's Wang Cheng's voice, screaming at the top of his lungs in the middle of the hall. He yells that he is not leaving. He demands that Li Mei come out and give him a straight answer. He wants to know what right she has to punish him like this. A flicker of amusement crossed my eyes. I knew this wasn't over.
Wang Cheng was throwing a massive tantrum in the lobby, shouting and screaming.
The clients were so terrified, they didn't even dare to do their banking. Left with no choice,
Li Mei had to drop her work
and drag Wang Cheng into the office. She scolded him, saying that just because they penalized him, he was abusing his status as a veteran employee to throw a fit, making it impossible for her to do her job. She told him she was only the manager,
and the decision to penalize him was made by the store manager.
Besides, he had offended team leader Chen from headquarters, so her hands were tied. As she spoke, her eyes casually drifted toward me, clearly hinting to him that I was holding a petty grudge. Hearing this, Wang Cheng suddenly burst into tears and begged me, saying he knew I held a grudge because he made things difficult for me when I tried to withdraw money. He begged me to be the bigger person and let it go, pleading that he was just a senior employee who didn't mean any harm, and imploring me to stop the store manager from penalizing him. I let out a cold, frustrated laugh. He was completely shifting the blame, accusing me of being the reason he got penalized. The store manager was stunned too, having absolutely no idea about the money withdrawal incident. I scoffed and shot back, telling Wang Cheng that the manager penalized him because he abandoned his post and even put his hands on a client. This was entirely his own professional failure and had absolutely nothing to do with personal grudges. But Wang Cheng was completely blinded by his own delusion. He grabbed Li Mei's arm tightly, begging her to plead with the store manager on his behalf, even demanding she take the blame for him and take the punishment instead. The store manager's face turned as black as thunder. He never expected to have such an incredibly unprofessional employee working under him. He barked that Wang Yang was treating the bank's regulations like a complete joke,
and that this penalty wasn't up for debate,
but a direct consequence of his actions, which had to be handled strictly by the book. Before the store manager could even finish, Li Mei cut him off. "Excuse me," Li Mei said, interrupting him. The store manager nodded blankly, completely dazed. He had no idea what she was about to do. Mei's anger, which had been building up for a long time, finally boiled over. She violently flung Wang Cheng's hand off her and slapped him hard across the face. "Shut up!" she screamed. "How dare you threaten me?" With every sentence she spoke, she delivered another sharp slap to his face. She cursed him out, calling him a brainless idiot, a useless fool who was good for nothing but causing trouble. "You're just a lowly teller. Yet you stir up trouble every single day, and you expect me to keep cleaning up your miserable messes?" She yelled that she had warned him countless times to just follow the rules, but he just wouldn't listen.
always acting like a snob and looking down on everyone.
When you see someone withdrawing a lot of money, you kiss their feet. But if they withdraw just a little, you treat them like dirt.
She screamed that he had even targeted me just because of my accent.
And that if he hadn't gone out of his way to harass and assault me today, he wouldn't be facing any of these punishments right now.
She had long been absolutely sick of him.
When Lin Mei finally stopped,
Wan Hilang's face was swollen red and puffed up,
covered in angry handprints. He looked at her miserably, asking how she could say such things to him, thinking that everything he did was for her sake.
Li Mei spat at him in utter disgust,
sneering that even he didn't believe his own lies. If you actually cared about me, you wouldn't be causing trouble every single day.
Honestly, watching this unfold in front of me felt like watching a cheap farce.
Since today's inspection was clearly ruined, I packed up the unread documents and sealed them away. Turning to the store manager, I said, "You should resolve your store's internal drama first. I'll return another day." With that, I turned to leave.
Suddenly, Wang Sheng lunged forward, throwing himself on the floor to grab my legs. He sobbed desperately, begging me to speak to the manager on his behalf.
"Please, don't punish me. I know I was wrong," he wailed. "If I lose my bonus and commissions, I won't even be able to survive."
He looked up at me, his eyes pleading and full of desperate hope.
But he was dead wrong. I've never been a soft-hearted saint, and I don't believe in easily forgiving those who try to hurt me.
He targeted and harassed me time and time again.
He'd even laid his hands on me. How could I ever forgive someone like that? At the end of the day, he only acted so lawless because he thought he was untouchable as a veteran employee, when he had no idea who I really was. I was just trying to withdraw my own money, following every single rule, and he still went out of his way to— If he treats me like this, you can only imagine how terribly he treats regular customers. Someone like him doesn't deserve to work at this bank.
I'm with the head office's inspection team.
I don't handle local branch personnel changes. Seeing this, the branch manager immediately called for security. He ordered the guards to watch Wang Sheng pack his things and make sure he headed straight to his demoted trainee position. 2 security guards walked over, filling in Wang Sheng, one on his left and one on his right, and stood over him as he packed up. I glanced at the time. It was already 6 in the evening. I had wasted my entire afternoon here. After scheduling the next inspection with the manager, I turned on my heel and left the bank.
As soon as I got home, I wrote down every single detail of what happened today and sent a formal report to the audit team at headquarters.
Barely 2 days later, a colleague of mine shared some news. Headquarters had uncovered massive issues at the Gongnong Road branch.
Li Mei was found guilty of dereliction of duty.
It turns out she'd been shielding that veteran employee, Wang Sheng, which was why he was always so arrogant. She was the one enabling him all along.
But once Wang Sheng got punished,
he held a grudge against Li Mei for not backing him up. So, he turned right around and reported her to the higher-ups. Li Mei had only been a manager for 1 year before she was stripped of her title. The branch manager let her off easy since it was her first offense,
and because she seemed genuinely remorseful.
Instead of firing her, he demoted and transferred her to another post, killing any chance of a promotion for the entire year. By the time I returned to the Gongnong Road branch for another inspection, the branch manager came out to greet me personally. After finishing up, I curiously asked him why I hadn't seen Li Mei around. The manager sighed helplessly, admitting he deeply regretted not firing her on the spot. He told me that after Wang Sheng was punished, he started coming to the bank every single day for services, specifically demanding that Li Mei serve him. They ended up in screaming matches every single time. Today, things got even more ridiculous. They literally got into a physical fistfight right in the middle of the lobby, and the police just hauled them both away. I let out a soft laugh. They got exactly what they deserved. I told the manager, "I'm sorry you had to deal with that." He added that although the bank couldn't easily punish Li Mei without solid grounds at first, but he's constantly taking time off and stirring up trouble, which really hurts bank operations and ruins the customer experience. He needs to be disciplined, according to the rules. The manager's eyes lit up. He kept nodding, saying I was absolutely right to point it out, but I knew exactly what was going on. It's not that he hadn't thought of it himself. He was just too afraid of the backlash. Now that I, the head of the headquarters inspection team, had spoken up, he finally had the perfect excuse. Not long after that, the manager went ahead and dunked Li Mei 2 months of her salary, strictly by the book. I pulled out the official inspection report, had him sign it, and walked out in a fantastic mood. Call me petty, but I don't forget a grudge. Sure, Wang Sheng was the one who directly caused the trouble back then, but Li Mei was just as guilty for letting her relative run wild and failing to manage her staff. There was no way only Wang Sheng was going to take the fall. 2 weeks later, the manager called to tell me that Li Mei had actually resigned on her own. Oh? I asked, genuinely curious. Why's that? He said Wang Sheng was showing up to cause a scene every single day. Between the pay cuts and his constant demands, Li Mei's salary couldn't even cover the fines. Plus, he was constantly hounding her. She just couldn't take it anymore. Hearing this, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Talk about poetic justice. It takes a monster to beat a monster. That's just how the world works. What goes around comes around. How you treat others is exactly how you'll be treated in the end. Karma never misses its mark. And as for me, I was just getting the justice I deserved, making sure those who did me wrong paid the price. The next day, I headed to headquarters for our inspection debrief meeting, but the moment I stepped into the conference room, the director called me over. He slammed a stack of anonymous complaint letters right onto the table. They were filled with accusations, claiming I was abusing my power,
Settling a personal score.
and maliciously targeting store employees. The whistleblower even attached some evidence taken completely out of context, a heavily edited security clip of my confrontation with Wan Xiang. I glanced over the letters, then calmly laid out my complete inspection log, the backup files from my body cam, the official police report, sliding them right in front of the director. Everything was done strictly by the book, I said. We have a paper trail for every single step. The director spent half an hour going through everything, and his expression slowly darkened. He told me there was more than just one complaint letter. They were sent to the group's supervisory board and the regional regulatory office at the same time. Headquarters has to launch an internal investigation, and I have to step down from frontline inspections for now. I nodded in agreement.
But I demanded that the investigation team keep the entire process completely transparent.
I told them I'd cooperate with every single part of the investigation. The moment I stepped out of the meeting room, I immediately contacted our group's legal and information security departments. I requested to pull all recent searches regarding my personal information and any doxing or online forum posts about me. The legal department filed a case that very day, and the InfoSec team started tracing the source from the back end. When I got home that night, there was a shady figure lurking downstairs. It was Wan Xiang. He was squatting right next to the flower bed, staring intently at my building's entrance. I didn't go near him. Instead, I immediately started recording on my phone, pinned my location, and sent it to our corporate security specialist. Within 3 minutes, the security specialist contacted the neighborhood property management and local police. By the time the police arrived, Wan Xiang actually tried to lunge forward and grab my arm. The officers pinned him down right on the spot. During interrogation, they found out he had been staking out my building for 3 consecutive days.
Wan Xiang confessed that he'd paid someone to dig up my address,
hoping to corner me and beg for mercy. The police took down his statement and warned him that if he harassed me again, he'd be locked up immediately.
As Ren Xiang was being dragged away,
He glared back at me with pure hatred, snarling that he wouldn't let this go. I took the entire audio recording, the police dispatch logs, and the official statements, and archived them all as evidence. The next day, the investigation thing called me in for a meeting. I submitted the complete chain of evidence to them. At the same time, we pulled the full surveillance footage from the Gongnong Road branch, the police reports, and the bank's internal disciplinary files. Everything clearly showed how Wan Xiang had harassed me, snatched my phone, and physically assaulted people during his rampage. The investigation team immediately ruled that the complaints against me were completely baseless. I hadn't violated any rules whatsoever. That very day, the supervisory board issued an official statement clearing my name and commended me for my compliant, fair, and just inspections. Just as my inspection authority was restored, Mimei sent me a request to add my work WeChat,
they sent a long essay-like apology.
claiming he had deeply reflected on his actions and was willing to make amends by doing me a favor. He even attached a so-called list of violations from other branches, claiming he had major leads on serious misconduct. I sent back just one cold reply. Please submit any leads through the proper internal channels. I do not accept private submissions. But Mimei didn't stop there. He bombarded me with voice messages, hinting that if I got him reinstated, he'd give me even more dirt on everyone else. I screenshotted every single message to keep as evidence, without making a single promise in return. Then, I forwarded the entire chat log straight to the audit team and Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs followed up on the leads Mei provided, only to find they were completely made up to frame others. He wanted to use me to take down the current manager, so he could steal the job for himself. That very day, Internal Affairs hauled Mei in for questioning. They quickly verified that he had maliciously fabricated the claims just to get his job back. Mei completely lost his mind with panic. He fell to his knees, begging for mercy, sobbing that it was a moment of weakness. But Internal Affairs wasn't having it. They immediately ruled that he had severely violated the employee code of conduct and terminated him on the spot. The day he was fired, Mei stormed down to the headquarters lobby to make a scene. He put up banners slandering me, claiming I was retaliating against him and taking bribes. Headquarters security rushed to the scene immediately, recording every single detail for evidence. I walked downstairs, right in front of the crowd of employees and onlookers, and played the full security footage and chat logs out loud. Everyone saw exactly how Mei had tried to frame others, plotting and throwing a tantrum from start to finish. Mei's face turned completely pale, and his knees buckled right there. Security dragged him away and called the cops, pressing charges against him for disturbing public order. At the exact same time, the legal and cybersecurity teams finished tracing the source of the leak,
exposing that Wan Xiang had paid internet trolls to dox my personal info,
fabricate fake accusation letters, and hire online bots to drag my name through the mud. The investigation team gathered all the evidence of Wan Xiang's smear campaign, harassment, and false accusations, locking it down tight. The corporation filed a civil lawsuit against Wan Xiang for damaging company reputation
And disrupting the audit process.
At the same time, I filed a request with the court for a personal protection order.
barring Wan Xiang from coming anywhere near me or contacting and harassing me. The court fast-tracked the process and quickly issued the protection order.
Yongkang refused to sign for it.
But the court officers forced the delivery on him anyway.
Absolutely furious, Wan Xiang refused to back down.
He stormed into the regional regulatory office to file a complaint, claiming that I and the corporate executives were covering for each other. But the regulators weren't having it. They pulled the full inspection records, security footage, and verification files,
They dismissed Wang Zhang's petition right then and there,
ruling that the bank's actions were fully compliant with regulations.
and that I had done absolutely nothing wrong.
On top of that, the regulators officially logged his malicious and false accusations directly onto his personal credit and integrity record, aft completely into a corner, with nowhere left to turn.
Wang Zhang started targeting local community chats
And job hunting groups, fabricating malicious rumors about me. He claimed I accepted bribes, targeted employees based on personal grudges, and intentionally ruined the careers of veteran staff. Fortunately, someone in those groups took screenshots and sent them straight to me.
I saved every single one of them.
Our legal department immediately secured the digital evidence, and I called the police once again, this time for criminal defamation. The police hauled Wang Zhang in and laid out the airtight chain of evidence right in front of him. Still, the idiot stubbornly refused to confess.
So, the officers pulled up the device registries of his login account,
Along with the exact IP addresses of those posts. Faced with undeniable proof,
Wang Qiu was legally hit with
with a 5-day administrative detention.
But once those 5 days were up and he was released,
He was still itching for revenge. He tracked down 3 former employees who had previously been disciplined by me for violations. The 4 of them started a group chat, plotting a joint petition to report me to the head office's board of directors. They forged signatures, fabricated meeting records, and heavily edited security footage. Big blew minor issues completely out of proportion, accusing me of abusing my power
to carry out personal retaliation against them,
They sent their joint letter of complaint directly to the head office's board of directors.
the board of supervisors, and the disciplinary inspection team.
The head office took this extremely seriously and immediately set up a cross-regional task force.
The investigation team was dispatched
And took up residence directly at our headquarters, rigorously cross-checking every single document. I submitted all the inspection reports from the past year, the rectification notices, the NNU transcripts,
and all the audio and video recordings to the investigation team to verify store by store.
The investigation team called in the discipline employees for private talks. Seeing how serious the team was, those 3 cracked and recanted on the spot, admitting that Wang Zhang had instigated them to forge the documents. Wang Zhang's conspiracy was completely exposed. The special investigation team issued an official announcement, making it crystal clear,
Chenxi's inspections were fully compliant and fair from start to finish.
with complete paper trails, absolutely 0 violations. Meanwhile, Wang Zhang had colluded with others to frame me, forged evidence, and slandered my name. His actions were absolutely atrocious. The group immediately fired the 3 complicit employees, blacklisted them from the industry, and increased the civil damages claimed against Wang Zhang, holding him fully accountable under the law. The very day the headquarters issued the announcement, I was publicly commended by the company and awarded the Outstanding Inspector of the Year. My inspection process was set as the group's official standard, to be adopted and learned across the entire system.
Meanwhile, Wang Chang received his court summons.
The damages claimed were way beyond his means. His bank cards were frozen, his assets seized, and he was forced to desperately look for a job. But with the industry blacklist, a ruined credit score,
And a record of administrative detention,
nobody would hire him, left with absolutely no way out.
Rung Kyung tried to stalk me at my office again. But the moment he arrived downstairs, security recognized him.
And called the police immediately. For violating the personal safety protection order, the police placed him under administrative detention for 10 days. And Kyun was completely stripped of his power to fight back, and his life fell into utter ruin. After Li Mei was fired, she wanted to make a scene, just like Wang Qiang did.
But when she heard that Wang Xiang was detained, sued, and blacklisted,
She was too terrified to even show her face. She fled to another city to work, not daring to ever mention her banking experience again. The only job she could find paid next to nothing.
barely enough to scrape by. Barely enough to scrape by.
Whenever his former colleagues happen to spot him, he immediately hangs his head and scurries away. As for me, I went back to my regular inspection work, but procedures became tighter. Security was beefed up, and headquarters even equipped me with a personal body cam, an encrypted phone, and a dedicated emergency contact. For every undercover visit, my route is logged in advance, with security tracking and backing me up the entire time. No matter which store I go to inspect, the staff is incredibly respectful.
Everything is strictly by the book, and no one dares to give customers a hard time anymore.
Nobody dares look down on inspectors or cut corners either. After a total overhaul, the Gawanal Road branch's service and compliance scores shot up to #1 in the entire region. The store manager personally leads the team, inviting me every single month to come and guide them. That lazy, chaotic attitude they used to have is completely gone. Half a month later, I received a notice from the court.
The defamation case against Longshang was finally going to trial.
I had already prepared all the evidence in advance, including surveillance footage, audio recordings, malicious complaint letters, his detention records, and my restraining order. On the day of the trial,
didn't even show up.
the court proceeded with a trial in absentia. The judge read out the evidence in open court.
如立的梁墙，我应敌给铁的这份面。
False accusations and harassment. The court ordered Wang Qiang to issue a public apology in the local mainstream media, which must remain posted for 30 days. He was ordered to pay me 80,000 yuan for emotional distress, pay the group 120,000 yuan for reputational and financial damages, and cover all legal fees,
Notarization costs, and attorney fees.
But even after receiving the verdict, Wang Qiang refused to pay. So, The court officially blacklisted him as a dishonest judgment debtor.
He was slapped with high consumption restrictions. He could no longer ride the high-speed trains,
Fly or book first-class seats on bullet trains. He couldn't stay in luxury hotels, buy real estate,
or send his kids to expensive private schools. Even his bank cards,
WeChat Pay and ID Pay accounts were completely frozen and seized. Every month, as soon as his salary hit his account, the court automatically deducted it,
leaving him with nothing but a bare minimum living allowance.
Desperate, Wang Shang started begging everyone he knew for money, just to try and pay off his debts. Once his family and friends found out about his despicable actions,
they all shunned him like the plague.
His wife immediately filed for divorce, demanding a split of their assets and full custody of their child. During the messy divorce battle,
the judge looked at Wan Chan's record of fraud, defamation, and harassment,
and awarded sole custody to his wife. Wang Shang was kicked out with absolutely nothing to his name. He didn't even have a place to live. He ended up renting the cheapest, dirtiest basement in a rundown shantown, drowning his sorrows
in alcohol day in and day out.
On the rare occasions he was actually sober,
he could creep around the Gaonong Road branch, loitering outside.
But the moment the employees saw him, they called the police to drag him away.
The branch manager even banned Wang Shang from entering the premises to do any business whatsoever. Rung team couldn't even process the most basic banking services.
When he tried to cancel his bank card, it insisted he had to be there in person, but he was blocked at the door by security.
When he wanted to report his savings book lost,
he was rejected just the same. His entire life had hit rock bottom. Meanwhile, when Li Mei was working in another city, she tried desperately to hide her banking background. She managed to land a job as a customer service supervisor at a small financial firm. Just 3 months into the job,
the company's background check uncovered the real reason she was fired from the bank.
Citing resume fraud and poor moral character, they fired her on the spot.
Li Mei was unemployed.
Once again, she applied to dozens of companies, but every single financial firm saw her blacklisted record
and instantly rejected her application. In the end, she had to resort to working at supermarkets and doing odd jobs at restaurants.
Working more than 12 hours a day, she barely made enough money to put food on the table, and she was constantly falling behind on her rent. When her own family found out what she had done, they completely cut ties with her. She would complain to anyone who would listen that I was the one who ruined her, never once reflecting on her own actions. One day, she ran into a former bank colleague at the restaurant where she worked. The colleague casually mentioned that I had just been promoted.
Hearing this, Li Mei lost her mind and smashed the plates right then and there.
Naturally, the restaurant owner fired her on the spot. He didn't even get to collect his salary for that month. Meanwhile, with a promotion from headquarters,
I was appointed as the regional inspection team leader,
taking full charge of inspecting and managing every single store in the city. The very first thing I did after taking office was perfect our inspection tracking system. Every single inspection had to be fully recorded on audio and video. All conversations were backed up in real time,
and every corrective action required written confirmation.
This completely wiped out any chance of false accusations or smear campaigns. I also pushed to establish an employee integrity database, linking it directly with the industry's credit system. Any employee who violated regulations,
sought malicious revenge,
or falsified their resume would be blacklisted immediately, and their records would be shared across the entire industry. This completely cut off any room for toxic employees to survive. Within the very first month of implementing the new system, our store compliance rate across the city shot up by 40%,
and customer complaints dropped by 60%.
Headquarters issued another company-wide commendation for me, rewarding me with a special bonus. I donated the entire bonus to our group's
employee care fund to help struggling customers and staff.
When the news reached Wang Chan's ears, he went completely insane. He printed out a massive stack of flyers
and scattered them all over my neighborhood, headquarters, and the Gaonong Road store.
The flyers were printed with my photo, cell number, and workplace, spinning all kinds of disgusting rumors.
The property management cleaned them up immediately and called the police.
The police pulled up the surveillance footage and tracked down Wang Shang's whereabouts. Just as he was about to hand out flyers again,
we caught him red-handed. Wang Chou had violated both the Public Security Administration punishment law and a personal safety protection order.
The court decided to combine his offenses, sentencing him to 15 days of administrative detention.
During his detention,
Wang Chou went on a hunger strike,
refusing to speak to anyone.
The detention center contacted his family,
but not a single one was willing to visit him.
He was left completely alone with no one by his side.
After his release,
Wang Chang's mental state became unstable.
He would often talk to thin air, muttering to himself that he had done nothing wrong.
I set him up on purpose.
The community staff found him and contacted the mental health center. The doctors diagnosed him with acute stress disorder and recommended involuntary psychiatric commitment. But Wang Chang's family refused to sign the papers and refused to cover his medical bills. In the end, Wang Shang was sent to a community rehab center for long-term treatment. He no longer has the power to harass or take revenge on anyone. When Li Mei learned about Wang Shang's fate, she went completely silent. She changed her phone number, deleted all her social media accounts, and completely vanished from everyone's sight. Some say she went to a remote town to scrape by on odd jobs, while others say she went back to her hometown and was locked inside by her family. But either way, she never set foot in the financial industry again. Every week, I receive a public opinion monitoring report from headquarters. Every single rumor about me, every smear campaign, and every complaint has been completely wiped clean. Everyone in the entire group now knows clearly. Offending a customer just means you have to rectify the issue, but crossing an inspector means your position gets adjusted right away. Every store in the city now uses the Gongnong Road branch as a cautionary tale. It's discussed at every single morning meeting and studied during every monthly training session. As a result, our staff's service attitude has dramatically improved, and compliance awareness is now deeply ingrained in everyone. The Gongnong Road branch has been rated a star store for 6 consecutive months, and the store manager was promoted to regional operations director, specifically in charge of compliance management. Every time he sees me now, he thanks me with the utmost respect. But I just tell him, this is the result of your own hard work. I was only doing my job and playing by the rules. 6 months later, the head office organized a National Inspection Experience Sharing Conference. I took the stage as the keynote representative to share our standardized inspection process and risk prevention strategies. My speech was recorded as a training video to be studied by our systems nationwide. The top executives from the head office personally met with me, praising my work with the highest honors. I made my stance clear on the spot. I will continue to guard my post, perform my duties with absolute fairness, and protect the company's compliance bottom line. Right after the conference, I received a notice from the court.
All of Wan Chan's debts have been fully recovered through enforcement.
And the case is officially closed.
The retention period for the credit blacklist finally expired
When Wan Chang was taken off the list. But his name on the industry blacklist, the stain on his credit history, and his administrative detention record will stay there forever. For the rest of his life, he will never step foot in the financial industry again. His credit score will never recover. I had my assistant handle all the leftover paperwork and never looked back at what became of Wang Qiu.
What goes around comes around.
He brought this miserable end upon himself. I went back to my desk, focusing on my daily inspections and staff training. My team submitted a new list of high-risk branches. I reviewed each one carefully, drawing up a detailed audit plan, assigning staff, setting clear standards, and ensuring every single step was documented. Everything ran like clockwork, under strict standard procedures. Then, one afternoon, while I was in my office reviewing a report, the current manager of the Gongnong Road branch called. He said a very special customer had just walked in. It was the elderly gentleman who had seen me call the police years ago. He had come back specifically to present us with a testimonial banner, thanking me for standing my ground back then and cleaning up the bank's toxic culture. He said now, everyday folks can do their banking without being looked down upon or having to deal with power trips. It made him feel incredibly valued. The manager snapped a photo of the banner and sent it over. Emblazoned on it were the words, upholding justice with integrity and serving the people with heart. Looking at the photo, a soft smile crossed my face. I didn't do any of this for praise or for awards. I did it to protect the rules, to protect fairness, and to protect the basic dignity that every ordinary person deserves. As I left the office that evening, the security had escorted me to the parking garage. He mentioned that their system showed the last unauthorized search on my personal data had been shut down. There was no longer a single trace of malicious searches about me in the entire city. The records of their doxing and slander. I nod and get into the car. The screen on the dashboard automatically pops up with the next inspection schedule. Key store checklists, deadlines, the base of his creative and critical reminders. Everything is clear at a glance. I open my encrypted work inbox and start replying to emails. The troubles of the past are now completely settled. Every single one of those toxic people got exactly what they deserved. Karma is a debt that always gets paid. Justice always catches up in the end. I didn't even have to seek revenge or go out of my way to target them, as long as I stand by the rules and uphold what is fair. Any malice they throw at me will eventually be crushed by those very rules. The car glides away from the headquarters building. The evening sun bathes the road in a golden glow. Looking at the road ahead, my eyes are completely calm. There will be more challenges in my future work. I'll run into more rule breakers and bitter people out for revenge. But I have absolutely nothing to fear. I am shielded by the rules, armed with evidence, and backed by the law. I only need to focus on doing my job and walking my own path. Time will handle the rest. The rules will deliver justice. Back home, I power on my computer and back up all of today's work logs. Then I close out of the work interface and let myself completely unwind. Outside, the night deepens and the city glows with thousands of lights. I know that when I wake up tomorrow, it will be a brand new day. New inspection. A new mission. And the same commitment in my heart. As for those who once tried to hurt me and break the rules, they have long since been swallowed by the torrent of karma, never to stir up trouble again. And that is the ultimate payback, the perfect ending. My name is Wang Xiang. I used to be a teller at the Gongnong Road branch. I worked there for over 10 years. I thought my years of service meant I could walk all over people, that I could judge them by their looks, that I could trample the rules under my feet and treat my customers' dignity like trash. I was wrong. Dead wrong. So wrong that I left myself no way out. So wrong that I pushed myself right into the abyss. So wrong that I'll never be able to hold my head up again. That afternoon, the branch wasn't very crowded. The air was suffocatingly hot. A woman walked in. She was dressed very plainly. No fancy makeup, no designer bag. She walked up to my counter, Her voice was barely a whisper. She said she needed to withdraw $50,000. It was life-saving money for her father's surgery. I looked up and gave her a dismissive glance. My first reaction was disgust. She looked broke and like a complete waste of my time. Coming all the way to the bank for just $50,000? How pathetic. At that moment, my deep-seated arrogance surged to the surface. I looked down on her. I felt she didn't deserve my time or effort.
Felt I could push her around however I wanted.
So, I started to deliberately give her a hard time. The first time, I told her that her identity verification failed. I sent her back to get more documents. She didn't say a word. She just turned around and left. The second time, when she came back, I lied and said the policy had changed, that she needed an extra signature. She grit her teeth and left again. The third time, she ran back, completely drenched in sweat, but I just made up another excuse. I told her the system was down and we couldn't process it. I treated the rules like a game. I used policy as my excuse. I just wanted to mess with her. I just wanted to watch him squirm. I wanted to savor that thrill of controlling someone else. I forgot I was just a teller. My job was to serve customers, not to give them a hard time, not to humiliate them, and certainly not to get a kick out of looking down on people. He finally snapped. His face went cold. He stared at me and asked, slow and deliberate, "What exactly are you trying to do?" I let out a mocking laugh, putting on my most impatient face.
I thought he was just being difficult.
I thought he was being completely ungrateful. I was convinced I hadn't done anything wrong. He was the one in the wrong. He was the one who was poor and high maintenance. He was the one who insisted on withdrawing those 50,000 yuan. I even cursed him in my head. If you're poor, just stay home. Stop coming out to embarrass yourself. The next second, he pulled out his phone and dialed the police. My entire body froze. Instantly, my face drained of color. I panicked. I was terrified. I was terrified our branch rating would suffer. I was terrified my boss would find out and tear into me. I was terrified of losing my job. Driven by pure instinct, I lunged forward. I forgot about the counter barrier. I forgot all about the rules and regulations. I reached straight out to grab his phone. I was acting like an out-of-control maniac, like a common street mugger. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Why on earth are you calling the police? I desperately wanted to snatch that phone away. I wanted to bury this whole thing. I wanted to strip away his only chance to stand up for himself. He took a step back and dodged me. His eyes were as cold as ice. He asked me, "What do you think you're doing?" I frowned and snapped back.
I already processed your transaction.
Why are you still calling the police to pick a fight? I was trying to turn the tables on him. I tried to paint myself as the victim. He sneered, "If you're allowed to suspect me, why can't I question you?" He began counting on his fingers, listing every single time I had used verification as an excuse to refuse him service. I kept demanding she change things over and over again. My professionalism was honestly a joke. She started to suspect I wasn't even a real bank employee. My heart skipped a beat, but I still refused to back down. I demanded she give me my phone back, or else I'd accuse her of robbery. I mocked her, calling her pathetic for making so many trips just for 50,000 yuan, asking if she had no shame. I called the security guards over, told them she was causing a scene in the bank, and ordered them to drag her out. People nearby started gathering to watch. And think, if you've not even joined in to jeer, saying she was acting like a big shot just to withdraw some cash. This made me feel even more smug, seeing everyone take my side. I felt like I had won. I gave her a triumphant sneer, telling her to get lost if she knew what was good for her. Back then, I couldn't see the disappointment and anger in her eyes. I couldn't see a daughter's desperate urgency to save her father. I couldn't see how utterly hideous I was being. The guard came over, grabbed her arm, and dragged her toward the door. His grip was terrifyingly tight. She struggled and broke free, shouting, "There are cameras here.
Is this how you treat your customers?
Whoever, they're to come here again." Hearing the word cameras, the guard instantly let go. I was shaking with rage. I pointed my finger and screamed at her, accusing her of deliberately causing trouble. She just looked at me coldly and handed my phone back. I glared at her viciously, threw the phone back at her, and told her to get the hell out. I thought that was the end of it. I thought she would just swallow her pride and leave, but I was wrong. She slowly sat back down in her seat and dialed the police again. She spoke into the phone, saying she suspected someone was impersonating a bank employee and unlawfully checking IDs. I tried to rush at her again, but my colleague held me back with all their might. My colleague warned me that our branch was currently under evaluation. Never clash with a client. He wanted me to apologize immediately. My face darkened. I did nothing wrong. Why should I apologize? I felt utterly, deeply humiliated. I knew he was messing with me on purpose, and I hated him for it. From that exact moment, a seed of pure hatred took root deep in my heart. The police arrived in no time. He laid out the whole story, explaining every detail. He told them I didn't even know my own basic procedures, and that I kept changing the rules on the spot. He even suspected I was an imposter, just trying to pry into his private information. The officer nodded, then turned to ask what I had to say for myself. I glared at him, absolutely seething. I told the police he was out of his mind and was just looking for trouble. There's no way I don't work for this bank. But the officer just frowned. He told me, dead serious, that my attitude was terrible, and that the customer suspicions were completely reasonable. I was furious inside, but I didn't dare talk back to the police. The guy looked at the officer and said calmly, "I want to see her employment contract right here, right now. True, she actually works here."
Otherwise, she has absolutely no right to check my 499.
I grit my teeth, feeling a mix of pure rage and sudden panic. I spat out, "Just you wait," and spun around to make a call. "I'll wait. I'm not scared at all," he replied. Back then, I was still naive enough to think I could sweep this under the rug. I thought I could force him to back down. Soon, my manager Li Mei hurried over and introduced himself. He said he'd handle the situation. I breathed a sigh of relief. I thought my savior had arrived, and that he'd smooth everything over for me. But the guy wasn't buying it. He said, "Talk is cheap. A simple name tag doesn't prove a thing." I was stunned, then snapped at him instantly, asking him how he dared to speak to the manager like that. But he remained completely unfazed. He straight up told the police he suspected they were all in on it together, and declared he wasn't going anywhere without proof.
Li Mei's face instantly paled.
She hurriedly ordered someone to fetch my employment contract, an original 499, dragging my feet, completely against my will. I mumbled a quiet, "I'm sorry." He turned his shoulder to me, saying, "I don't accept cheap, insincere apologies." My face turned incredibly ugly. I clenched my fists tight, seething with pure rage. I felt like all my dignity had been completely dragged through the mud today. 30 minutes later, the contract and original 499 were finally delivered. Li Mei forced a fake smile and handed them to him. He barely spared them a glance and indifferently muttered, "Fine." I was so furious, I thought I was going to explode. I snapped, accusing him of playing me on purpose. We went through all that trouble to get the original documents. He didn't even bother to look at them, but could cut me off,
Asking if I had some kind of problem with him.
I took a deep breath, faking back my words. Forcing a fake smile, I squeezed out, "I wouldn't dare." I thought that would be the end of it, but he calmly uttered 2 words. "Hold on." My head snapped up. I demanded to know what else he wanted.
He turned to the police officer.
Stating that even if I worked at the bank, that didn't give me the right to snatch someone's phone. What makes that any different from a bandit? The officer's face darkened, declaring that robbery is a very serious offense. All the color drained from my face. Instantly, waving my hands frantically, I cried out, "I didn't rob anyone. It was just a moment of impulse." For the very first time, I swallowed my pride and sincerely apologized to him. I even bowed deep to him. I was terrified. I was truly, deeply terrified. I was terrified of being arrested and terrified of losing my job. Even Li Mei quickly chimed in to help plead my case. He called me a veteran employee who knew the rules, but still went out of my way to make things hard for him, and that he'd personally watch me fix it. The police tried to pacify him, saying my identity was verified, and since I'd already apologized, they suggested he just let it go. He nodded. He said we'd leave it at that. After he signed the papers and finished his statement, the second the police walked out, I instantly dropped the act. I coldly snapped at him, "I already apologized." "What are you still hanging around for?" Li Mei pulled a long face and scolded me. I shook off her hand. "What do I have to be afraid of? The inspectors aren't even here yet." He let out a low chuckle. "And what if I decide not to leave?" Li Mei grew impatient and told him, "Your business is done. So it's how to go." But he didn't say a word. He just sat there, calmly staring at us. That completely set me off. "I apologized. I processed your contract. I've completely lost all face." "What more does he want?" I stormed over to him in a rage. I yelled at Li Mei to stop holding me back. "I'm going to teach him a lesson he'll never forget today. Call the cops again if you've got the guts." I raised my hand, ready to slap him across the face. But the next second, he pulled an 499 badge out of his pocket and hung it around his neck. Qianxi, quality inspector from headquarters. I came to the Gonang Road branch specifically for an evaluation. Li Mei and I instantly froze, completely dumbfounded. We stood there like statues, unable to react for the longest time. I couldn't believe my eyes. I stammered, You really are the inspector from headquarters." It felt as if the entire world had instantly ground to a halt. The blood rushed to my head, only to run ice cold a split second later. I knew I was done for. I was absolutely finished. Li Mei was the first to snap out of it. She forced a desperate smile and reached out to shake his hand. He calmly ignored her. He ordered Li Mei to compile all of this year's transaction data and reports on past issues. Li Mei nodded frantically, over and over, but I still couldn't accept it. I blocked his path, yelling, "This doesn't make any sense. Are you really the inspection team leader? Why didn't you just say it from the start? That you intentionally withdrew that money and called the police just to make a scene? What were you even after?" I was actually stupid enough to think he had just caught wind of the upcoming inspection and was intentionally impersonating me. Looking back at it now, I was as dumb as a pig back then. I fired back, asking me where I thought his 499 came from.
What? Did I perform a magic trick to get it?
My face turned beet red. I couldn't squeeze out a single word, but I still stubbornly insisted. "You can't just prove it within 499. You said it yourself earlier. Li Mei can't just rely on a name badge either." I demanded that he show me his employment contract from headquarters. I wanted to beat him at his own game. I just wanted to save some face. I desperately wanted to prove he was a fraud. He sneered, telling me I didn't have the clearance to see his contract. He said he'd find someone to vouch for him. The manager will definitely know this person. Right in front of us, he made a call. He told the person on the other end to call the store manager's mobile phone directly. The voice on the other end instantly flared up in anger. Even though they were arriving any second, I was still being stubborn.
I grabbed Li Mei and whispered, "Look at him. He's obviously a fake."
Don't let him fool you. But Li Mei hurriedly rushed off to verify his identity. With only the two of us left in the office, I glared at him like a hawk. I warned him, I'm a senior employee here. I'd do whatever I want. And you can't do a damn thing about it. You're just some sketchy nobody. I'm keeping my eyes on you. And make sure you don't steal any files. He calmly gave me a warning. If I really am the inspector, do you have any idea what the consequences of offending me will be? I shook my head. No way. I didn't believe him for a second. I wouldn't believe it even if my life depended on it. He looked absolutely dirt poor to me. There was no way he was from headquarters. Right at that moment, his phone rang. It was a call from the hospital. His father was in surgery, and they needed him to pay and sign the papers immediately. He abruptly stood up. He said the inspection would have to wait, and that he would report back to headquarters. I immediately blocked his path. You think you can just walk away? No way. A family emergency? You have to go back? Please. I sneered. You're just getting cold feet. You're terrified of getting caught as a fraud. I took a deep breath. Choking down my rage, I snapped, I don't have time to play games with you. Get out of my way. I lunged forward and grabbed his arm in a death grip. I'm calling the cops on you, you filthy scammer. You're not going anywhere. I completely lost control of my emotions. I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. I screamed at him, calling him a pathetic bro con artist. Calling the cops over 50,000 yuan just to embarrass me? I am not letting you off the hook today. I flung the door open and screamed for Li Mei. He's a fraud. There's nothing left to check.
He knows he's guilty, and he's trying to run.
The next second, the store manager's phone rang frantically. The head of the brand's Greater China division roared through the receiver. Release Group Leader Chen this instant. The store manager rushed over in a panic. Seeing me gripping his arm, sweat broke out all over the manager's forehead in sheer terror. He screamed at me at the top of his lungs. Let go of him right now. My face turned pale as death. I began to shake uncontrollably. I couldn't squeeze out a single word. With a grim, heavy expression, the store manager demanded of Li Mei. Is this how you treat our guests?
Mide stammered, unable to find her words.
I kept my head low, my hands and feet turning ice cold. He looked at the store manager and said coldly, Your store staff is remarkably dedicated.
It's zero evidence. They accused me of being an imposter. Freeing. To let me leave.
And even slapped me. The store manager's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He was utterly horrified. The manager turned to Li Mei and ordered, strip Wang Zhang of all his commissions and bonuses, and demote him to an intern, and issue a store-wide disciplinary notice. As the manager repeatedly apologized to him, I stood, ferocious on the side, feeling like I'd just been handed a death sentence. My commissions and bonuses made up most of my income. Demoting me to an intern meant over 10 years of my hard work evaporated into nothing, and a store-wide public shaming meant I could never hold my head up in front of my colleagues again. Bitter rage and resentment consumed me. I felt like the entire world was against me. It was him. He was the one who ruined me. No, it was Li Mei. She was the one who set me up. I never would have thought that the store manager was actually targeting me. It was me. I ruined my own life. Then, the hospital called again, saying his family had arrived to finalize the surgery paperwork. Only then did he finally let out a sigh of relief. He turned around. Now that his family emergency was taken care of, it was time to settle the score for me getting beaten up. I panicked instantly. I fell to my knees right in front of him, tears streaming down my face. I cried, I didn't mean to. I didn't know who you really were. I thought you were just an imposter. I just acted in the heat of the moment. Please, I beg you, don't let the store manager punish me. It was so hard for me to get this job. I can't afford to lose it. Li Mei tried to plead for me too. At that moment, I was still counting on Li Mei. I actually believed she would help me. But the store manager's face was as dark as thunder. He roared at Li Mei. Did you not hear a word I just said? The manager reiterated his decision. All her commissions and bonuses are forfeited, and she is demoted to a trainee associate, effective immediately across all branches. My face drained of all color. My knees buckled, and I could barely stand. I looked at Li Mei, begging her through my tears. I did all of this for you. Please, say something for me. Li Mei shut her mouth instantly. Her expression turned cold and rigid. She looked dead at me and announced my punishment. This will also be written up as a misconduct report and sent directly to headquarters. I couldn't believe my ears. I screamed at her for turning on me so fast. I did everything for you. You were the one who told me to find evidence. Mimi immediately denied it. She snapped at me, calling it utter nonsense. She called the other coworkers over to take photos of me as a warning to everyone and posted in the group chat. I just watched them point fingers at each other, watching them completely tear each other's mask off. I felt like a total clown. A complete laughingstock. I finally realized I was never her trusted confidant to begin with. I was nothing but her pawn. Just a shield to protect her. And the moment trouble hit,
I was the first one she threw to the wolves.
I refuse to accept this.
I threw a massive fit right in the lobby, screaming that I wouldn't leave.
Mime, get the hell out here. How dare you penalize me? You're scaring the customers so much they don't even dare to do their business. Mime dragged me into her office, but I remained arrogant and defiant. You seriously dare to punish me? I'll make trouble here every single day.
I'll make it impossible for you to get any work done.
Mime sighed. The penalty was decided by the branch manager.
You offended Supervisor Chen. There's nothing I can do. Her eyes darted toward Chen Shi,
implying that she was the one holding a grudge. Like a madman, I fell to my knees in front of Chen Chu. I begged her through my tears. I know you hate me for making things hard for you. Please, be the bigger person and forgive me. I'm a senior employee.
I didn't mean to do it.
Please don't let the branch manager punish me. Even then, I still hadn't truly admitted my mistake.
I was only terrified of losing my job.
Terrified of losing my income. Deep down, I still believed she was just out for revenge, instead of realizing that I got exactly what I deserved. The branch manager barked at me. You treat the bank's regulations like a complete joke. We must penalize you strictly by the rules. Suddenly, Li Mei snapped. She violently flung my hand away, slapped me hard across the face, and screamed, "You complete idiot! You can't do anything right, but you sure know how to ruin everything, causing trouble day in and day out, forcing me to clean up your messes." She had constantly warned me to follow procedure, but I stubbornly refused to listen. You absolute snob. If they have a lot, you suck up to them. But if they have a little, you treat them like trash. And you even went out of your way to pick on her just because of her out-of-town accent. If it weren't for you, how could I have ended up in this miserable mess? She slapped me again and again, until my face was swollen red, covered in burning slap marks. I couldn't believe it. I asked her how she could treat me like this. I did all of this for you.
Li Mei spat at me. For my own good.
If you actually cared about me, you wouldn't be causing trouble every single day.
I watched this ridiculous farce unfold,
completely disheartened. Qin Xiu packed up her files, said she would return another day for the audit. Suddenly, I lunged forward and grabbed her legs, crying and begging, "Please, help me plead with the branch manager. Don't punish me. I know I was wrong."
Without my bonus and commissions, I won't survive. My eyes were filled with desperate hope. I thought kneeling would earn her forgiveness, and that begging would soften her heart. But she just looked down at me calmly and said, "I am from the headquarters inspection team."
Ignoring the HR transfer order, the branch manager called security and had them drag me away to pack up my things.
I was kicked out like a stray dog. It was 6 p.m. that afternoon when I walked out of the bank.
The sunlight was blinding, but all I could feel was complete darkness. My life had completely collapsed from that moment on. I went home, and the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. The more I thought about it, the more I hated him. I couldn't just accept this. I wanted revenge. I was going to make him pay the price. I was going to make his life a living hell too. I paid someone to hack him and track down his home address. Then, I wrote anonymous reports, keeping surveillance footage completely out of context. I falsely accused him of abusing his power, settling personal grudges on public duty, and maliciously suppressing employees. I sent the reports straight to the supervisory board and the regulatory office. I wanted to completely ruin his reputation. I wanted to drag him down. For 3 consecutive days, I lurked around his apartment building like a sneaky shadow. I wanted to corner him and beg for mercy, or maybe threaten him. I had completely lost my mind, but the police caught me right on the spot. I admitted that I tracked down his address and that I wanted to corner him. The officers warned me that if I kept harassing him, we would lock me up on the spot. As they dragged me away, I glared at him with pure hatred. "I'm not letting you off." But he just saved all the recordings in the police report. Back then, I wasn't even scared. I thought I still had a chance. Until the investigation team called him in, but he submitted a bulletproof chain of evidence. The full surveillance footage proved my claims were completely false. He hadn't violated a single rule. The supervisory board issued an official statement clearing his name and restored his inspection authority. Then, Li Mei added him on WeChat, sending a long, desperate apology. She wanted to redeem herself by offering a fake list of violations to bring others down, just to get her job back. But he screenshotted everything and submitted it straight to the Internal Control Department. Li Mei was found guilty of framing her colleagues and was instantly fired. On the very day she was fired, she ran to the headquarters building and started hanging up protest banners.
Falsify claims that he took bribes and abused his power for revenge.
But he walks right down and plays the security footage and chat logs in public. Everyone finally sees the ugly truth. Li Mei's face turns pale. She collapses to the floor on the spot, and the security guards drag her away. Headquarters immediately calls the cops, but I still refuse to back down. I hire internet trolls to stop him,
spreading rumors and slandering him. I turn myself into a rabid dog.
The corporation files a civil lawsuit against me, and he petitions the court for a personal safety restraining order. The court issues the restraining order. I refuse to accept it, but they force Serve me anyway. Furious, I take my complaint straight to the regulatory authority. I accuse them of covering for each other in a massive conspiracy. The regulators pull up all the files and evidence. They dismiss my appeal right then and there. And they flag my malicious claims on my official credit and integrity record. Backed into a corner with nowhere left to turn, I start fabricating toxic rumors in the group chats. I claim he is taking bribes and abusing his authority. The legal department secures the digital evidence, and they call the police on me. Yet again, the officers summon me to hand over my device info and IP address.
Caught red-handed. The evidence is ironclad.
I am sentenced to 5 days of administrative detention under the law, but the moment I get out, I still refuse to give up. I track down 3 other employees who were previously disciplined. We set up a group chat to launch a joint petition, forging signatures left and right. We fabricate meeting logs and interview transcripts, and splice together security footage. We are going to drag him down with us. We are going down, and we're taking him with us. But headquarters sets up a special investigation team. He hands over an entire year's worth of reports, audio, and video recordings. The investigation team verifies the details, store by store. Those 3 accomplices instantly recant their stories on the spot, admitting they were completely manipulated by me. My conspiracy is utterly exposed. The official report makes it crystal clear. Every single action of his was fully compliant and completely fair, with flawless, unbroken records to back him up. While I am guilty of malicious slander and framing an innocent man, and outright fabricating evidence,
Defaming and slandering others.
it was deemed an incredibly severe offense. Those 3 accomplices of mine were fired on the spot and blacklisted from the entire industry. The corporation doubled down on their lawsuit against me, and soon I received a court summons. I had to pay 80,000 yuan for emotional distress, plus another 120,000 yuan for the company's losses. On top of that, I had to cover all court fees and lawyer expenses, but I didn't have a single penny. So the court officially blacklisted me as a deadbeat debtor. My spending was heavily restricted. All my bank cards, WeChat Pay and eBay Pay accounts were frozen solid. The moment any paycheck hit my account, it was immediately seized. They only left me with a bare minimum living allowance. I basically became a social outcast. A ghost. Blacklisted from my entire industry, with a permanent stain on my credit record and a criminal detention record hanging over my head. I couldn't find a job anywhere. No employer dared to hire me. No one dared to lend me a hand. Even my relatives and friends avoided me like the plague. They were terrified I would ask to borrow money or drag them into my messy troubles. Then, my wife demanded a divorce. We fought bitterly over custody of our child.
But because of my bad credit, my defamation, and harassment history,
The court awarded full custody to her. I was kicked out of the marriage with absolutely nothing. I was completely homeless. I ended up renting a cramped basement in a sketchy slum. It was dark, damp, and reeked of rot. I spent every single day drowning my sorrows in cheap alcohol, living in a hazy, drunken stupor. I cursed the world. I cursed the heavens, but I never once blamed myself. I still refused to show a shred of remorse. I printed stacks of smear flyers with his face and phone number on them. I handed them out on every street corner. I spread vicious rumors and dragged his name through the mud. I had gone completely insane with obsession. But then, the police caught me. I had violated a restraining order. I was sentenced to 15 days of administrative detention, locked up inside that cold detention center. Nobody cares about me. Nobody even looks at me. Everyone ignores me. I've been left completely alone. Ever since I got out, my mind has completely collapsed. I start talking to thin air, muttering to myself that I did nothing wrong, that he's the one who ruined me, that the world is just unfair. The doctors diagnosed me with acute stress disorder and recommended immediate involuntary commitment. But my family refused to sign the papers, and they wouldn't pay a single cent. So, I was sent to a community mental rehab center for long-term treatment. I no longer have the strength to harass anyone or to get my revenge. Lying here on my bed in the rehab center, day after day, my head is finally starting to clear up. I finally have the courage to look at myself in the mirror and finally admit the truth, that I brought all of this on myself. I was wrong to be so arrogant. I thought having just a little power meant I could trample on other people's dignity.
I was wrong to be so snobbish.
Judging people by how much money they had and what they wore, forgetting that everyone is equal, and forgetting my professional duties. I was wrong to be so cruel, making life absolute hell for that helpless woman, showing absolutely no humanity. I was wrong to be so reckless,
Snatching phones, starting fights, and causing scenes.
treating my job like a joke, and treating the law like it didn't even exist.
I was wrong to be so narrow-minded.
Refusing to reflect on my actions even after being punished, only wanting revenge, only wanting to drag everyone else down with me. I was wrong to be so incredibly stupid, believing that lies could distort the truth, believing that playing dirty could help me escape responsibility, and believing that going crazy could somehow win back my dignity. My biggest mistake was my own selfishness. From start to finish,
I only ever cared about myself.
my pride, my money, my job. I never once gave a damn about anyone else's pain, their humiliation, or their rights. In the end, I didn't destroy Chen Xie. He got promoted, he got honored, he became a role model. He stood up for what's right, and he won everyone's respect. The only person I destroyed was myself. I destroyed my family, my children, my entire life. And look at what happened to Li Mei. Fired, blacklisted, working odd jobs just to scrape by. Abandoned by her own family. She's completely ruined too.
And the source of all this misery is me.
It was my arrogance, my snobbery,
My sheer malice.
and my stubborn refusal to change. Today, as I write this confession,
Every single word is written in blood.
and every line is filled with tears. I don't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I don't ask for sympathy.
I brought this on myself. I only hope that my ruined life
Can so as a warning to people like me.
Stop looking down on others. Stop bullying people just because you have power.
Stop making life miserable for everyday people. Stop treating the rules like a joke. Stop mistaking kindness for weakness. Don't wait until you've lost absolutely everything. I finally feel regret. Don't wait until you're trapped in the abyss.
difficult reflecting.
Don't wait until everyone you love abandons you to understand right from wrong.
Don't wait until your entire life is ruined to realize what you should have cherished. What goes around always comes around.
Karma is real, and it never misses.
How you treat others is exactly how you'll be treated in the end.
Whatever seeds you sow,
Are the exact fruits you will harvest.
My name is Wan Xiang.
And I am a sinner.
I'm spending my entire life paying for a single moment of my arrogance and malice.
My life
Is ruined. Completely and utterly ruined. I only hope the world takes me as a warning.
And never, ever follows in my footsteps.
Always guard your heart.
always respect others.
Always respect the rules. And always keep kindness in your soul.